Hi, and welcome to Your Inside Power. And this is Your Inside Power podcast and the TV show with Win-Win Women Network. I am your host, Patricia Stepler, and my question for you today was, do you have the image that shifts your results? You see, results, we can blame ourselves for not having the results, but a lot of it comes right down to the image we hold of ourselves. And that image we hold becomes super important when it comes to getting the results that we want. So we have to look at problems versus causes. We can say that there are problems that we have. Maybe we have a financial problem, but what is the cause of it? Do we ever really look into it, or do we just say that's the problem? But we never look into the fact that maybe we spend beyond our means, or that we're not making as much money as we deserve to make, or that we don't believe we can make more money. There's always a situation, there's always a reason behind every problem. And that's good, because if there's a reason behind it, there's also a solution that you can find to correct it. And often that solution comes down to us. Who are we? What image do we hold of ourselves? Do we hold this image of this highly successful person, or do we hold an image of somebody who's struggling? And it could be struggling in many areas of your life, not just financial struggling, but maybe struggling at your job. Maybe it's struggling with your health, struggling with your weight, struggling with your relationships with others. There's many reasons you could feel like you're struggling. But the good news is that there's a solution, and it generally comes from inside us. That's why I think this show being called Your Inside Power is just so important, because it is what's inside of you that's controlling your results. And sometimes we don't always accept that. But I want you to understand, and I know I've talked about this before, but you have two main parts of your mind. You have your conscious mind and your subconscious mind. And if we think of our subconscious mind as below the conscious mind, just for this illustration, your subconscious mind is wide open. It's wide open to whatever is around, which is why when somebody says to you something that's negative, perhaps, who do you think you are that you can do that? We believe it, because we start to form that as part of our self-image. And once that's formed, it's difficult to change, not impossible, because there's always a solution, but it becomes difficult. And the more you get that same information fed to you over and over and over again, the stronger that feeling becomes. So consciously, you can decide what you want to do. But if it's in conflict with your subconscious mind, the subconscious mind actually controls the actions that you take. So as long as your subconscious mind saying, no, you can't do that, you're not going to go forward and do whatever it is that you want. And it will just remain a wonderful thought inside your mind, but not something that you will necessarily act upon. So we can take this idea of being happier or being wealthier or being more successful, but if we never act on it, it just becomes an idea. So we have to realize we cannot outperform the image we hold of ourselves. This is why self-image is so important. Yet so often people don't seem to realize how important your self-image is, or they have a false understanding of their self-image. I remember a client I worked with, and they were like, yeah, I think I can do about anything I want to do. And I believe in that, but yet they weren't getting the results. So while they had a really good self-image of who they were and what they could do, underneath that all, in their subconscious, there was a part of them that didn't believe. So consciously, they believed they could do whatever they wanted and that they could have all the success they wanted. Subconsciously, they were stuck, and therefore their actions did not follow. Now, I can look at that as personal experience. So I was away for a couple weeks and I had a chance to kind of rest and rejuvenate and kind of figure out where I wanted to go next. And it was amazing because consciously it's where I wanted to go, but subconsciously I wasn't ready. And so I had to shift those things subconsciously in order to be able to consciously go into action. And when I came back from that brief vacation, I just like put the pedal to the metal and I started doing more things than I ever thought I could in a short amount of time because I finally had made a decision which my subconscious mind could accept. Now, how did I do that? Spaced repetition of ideas. About 30 days prior to going on vacation, I'd started a very intense visualization and meditation. And the first day I came up with, okay, if I can do this, this will help me do all these other things. And after doing that spaced repetition for almost 30 days, it started to shift what I was thinking. Now, here's the sad part. I'd been told this years ago. I did not do it. I would do a couple days and then I'd change the idea. And then I'd, shift to something else I wanted. And then a couple days later, I'd shift to something else. So I never had a consistent goal that I wanted to pursue. And that's what you need. Napoleon Hill will say that in his book, Think and Grow Rich, that you have to have an idea that you just go over and over all the time and you stay focused on it. And when you can stay focused on it, you are getting a single path to go and you're telling the universe, this is what I want. And then things start to happen, things start to come along, and then you get an idea. And then, for me, it was, I got this email from this guy that had been emailing me for probably a couple of years. I never really read any of his emails. All of a sudden I read one of his emails because my focus was in such a way that it made sense to me. And it was like, I went to his workshop, I learned some information. I was like, yes, this is what I need to do. Got some great help and moving on. And it wasn't that the help he gave me was something new that I'd never heard before, because I just never acted upon it. And that's what makes such a difference. Your actions are so dependent upon your thought process and your subconscious mind. And it just makes a huge difference. So when you can hold the image of what it is you want, hold it in your mind, you can have it. And I have never believed, like I have when I've had that image for 30 days in my mind, that I can have it. Like it becomes no doubt. Now, here's the fine thing. I've told you about my son and him getting a scholarship. And when he got a scholarship, when he opened that envelope, and he didn't tell me this right away, he told me this a couple of years later when I was explaining to him what he had done, because he had no clue. He was an unconscious competent. He did exactly the things I, teach my clients to do, only he just did it naturally. He didn't know what he was doing. He was just doing it. And when I told him what he was doing, he said, Mom, he said, there was never any doubt in my mind when I opened that envelope that it was a full scholarship. Now, there was all kinds of doubts in my mind because I kept trying to protect him and say, now, they only said a half to a third, don't expect a full scholarship, because I didn't want him to be disappointed because I didn't believe. But you see, he did believe. And so when he opened the letter and it was a full scholarship, that's all we had ever expected. And when you can have that type of belief, like what I'm saying, for the last 30 days, I just keep going over the same goal, same goal, same goal. When you can have that kind of belief in your mind, then it's just a matter of when. It's not, if it's going to happen. Yes, it's going to happen. And it's just how much action you put forward that will make the difference. So the first thing is the thought process, but you can't just think about it. Thinking about it alone is not going to do it. And that's where some people get really confused. They think, well, I'll think this idea and then I'll just wait and allow God or allow somebody else to make this appear in my life. And if it's supposed to happen, it will. If not, it wasn't supposed to. No, Act on it. Act on it. The universe, infinite intelligence, God, whatever you want to call that higher power, called higher power, that will give you the resources and the ideas, but you must act. And if you don't act, it's probably not going to happen. No, and some rare instance it might, but chances are it's not. You have to act. So everything we do is first controlled by that image. So we have to build the image of what we really want, not what we don't want. And there's the other thing, people often get confused. They can tell you exactly what they don't want, but they can't tell you what they do want because they're so focused on, what has happened wrong in their lives that I don't want that to happen again. I don't want that to happen again, but they can't tell you what they do want. And so you have to form that image of what you do want and then allow yourself to be absorbed by the universe and transformed into what it is that you want. But you have to conquer those limitations that are in your subconscious mind, because that's where they're at, in your subconscious mind. And when you can conquer those limitations, you can literally do anything you want. Now, I was talking to my son the other day, and he is from the time he got that scholarship and from the time I explained it to him, and he's done some studying with me and so on. But he just continues to move forward. And when he got out of grad school, he had a job the next week. And I said, wow, you're not even taking a break to kind of relax a little after all the work you've done. He said, well, isn't that what you're supposed to do? Come on, get a job. I mean, it was just like, that's the way it's supposed to be. And we know that doesn't happen to everybody, but he had a job in his field the very next week. And so then he went to a different company and he got this opportunity to go to Japan. And now he's in Japan. And I was talking to him, I guess last week, and he was telling me about how his raise that he was supposed to get got kind of hung up for a little. And so they decided to put a little extra money in because they've been so pleased with the work he's doing, because he's just so in tune with his intuitive feelings and what he needs to do to keep getting ahead and helping others. And he says, it never hurts to help your boss or to help those that are above you. If you can take something off their plate, that's always good. And so that's what he's been doing. And so they were trying to figure out, you just got this raise and promotion, and they're trying to figure out within their company how they can maneuver to give him the next promotion sooner, and how long they have to wait until, he actually has to go through the process of getting that next promotion. So that's just how things happen. And some people would say, oh, he's so lucky. No, he has gone through a lot to get to where he is, but he sets his sights on where he wants to go. And he always has that next idea in mind. And he doesn't allow limitations in his mind to control him. So that's what we have to do. We can't allow that. So if we get that image in our mind, we just have to put the action behind till it's there. And a lot of times, keep in mind, whatever it is that you're thinking of, whatever you've told the universe you want, it's there for you. It's already there. All you have to do is go through the actions that you need in order to get that and bring it into your life. So I keep going back to this book that I told you many times is my favorite, The Science of Getting Rich. And this is what it says. There's this thinking stuff from which all things are made. Thinking stuff from which all things are made. And which in its original state permeates, penetrates, and fills the inner spaces of the universe. So it's all around us. This thinking stuff is where you are right now. It's where I am right now. It's where everybody is. It's constantly around us. A thought in that substance produces a thing that is imaged by the thought. So all you have to do is to put your idea into the substance, and it's imaged by that thought. And the man can form things in his thought, and by impressing that thought upon the formless substance can cause the thing he thinks about to be created. And that's why every invention is made. It's first a thought. And we form that thought and we allow the universe to help us. And then it comes into our mind. and then it happens. And that's the way it always goes. So if you can see it in your mind and believe it, so it's, it's easy to see something in our mind, but it doesn't mean we actually believe it. But when we can see and believe it, then we can achieve it. So often we will get an idea of, oh, that'd be really nice, but it'll never happen for me. Or, yeah, it's not possible for me. And then we give all these kinds of reasons as to why it can't. And then we believe those reasons instead of believing that maybe it could happen. Now, are there limitations? Yes. I'm 5'2". I'm never going to play on a professional basketball team. It's not going to happen. I don't have that physical quality, nor do I have the athletic ability. So, there are limitations, but here's the thing. I also never in my life had a thought that I wanted to do that. So it goes hand in hand, right? I physically could not do that, but it didn't matter because I never wanted to do it to begin with. So I think we get thoughts that we are able to achieve. I don't think we get ridiculous ideas of something we want to do that we can't possibly even do. Okay. So I hope that makes sense to you. So Napoleon Hill says, whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. Conceive, when you get the idea, and believe, then you can achieve it. See it, believe it, and achieve it. And that's what we need to keep following. So we build this image of what we want: prosperity, better health, great relationships. We build that idea in our mind and we become more or less obsessed by it. It becomes a burning desire, as Napoleon Hill would say, a burning desire. We have to have it. We get to the point where in our life, we have to have it. And when that happens, then things will start to happen. And if we do the actions that are required, then it will happen. Now, here's one thing I want to caution you about. I've had two people in recent years have told me about inventions that they had. And they were solving a problem. Okay. There was a problem and they were solving it. Okay. And these two people invented two various things to solve the problem, but they never acted upon it. Sure, they invented it, but they didn't go any further than that. And because they never acted upon it, because the universe does like speed, but because they never acted upon that, somebody else got that same idea and built the invention and probably made a fortune. See, that's the other part of it. You see it, you believe it. You need to act on it and continue until you have gotten what it is you want. Now, in both these cases, maybe these people did not pursue it for whatever reason. I don't know. Maybe they allowed the money to get in the way, that they had to invest and they didn't have the investment. I don't know. Whatever it was, though, then they looked back and said, well, I had that same idea, but you didn't act upon it. I remember listening to a recording of Napoleon Hill, and he was giving this talk, and he was saying that after his talk, this man came up with kind of disheveled looking and papers everywhere, holding on this stuff. And he says, I have everything you said right here. Well, great, but you never did anything with it. Yes, you had all those ideas, but you didn't write a book like Napoleon Hill. You didn't decide to speak like Napoleon Hill. You didn't act on it. All you did was collect information, but you did not act. And that's the difference. You have to act on it. So build the image of what you want, believe you can have it, and act on it. Become the person that you need to be in order to accomplish it. That's the next thing. That gets back to your self-image. You see, sometimes we get these ideas and we believe we can do it, but we're not really the person we need to be. And that was something that I had an issue with when I was building my business. Early on, I didn't feel competent. I'd never been in business. I didn't know the first thing about business. I didn't know what I was doing. And so I allowed that to stop me. And every time I would get an idea of something I wanted to do, I would maybe run it by somebody else or listen to what somebody else was saying. I was like, that's not going to work. And so I stopped my own progress. And because I wasn't able, and in some cases was I did not understand. People were talking about things where, their knowledge was up here and mine was down here. I didn't have a clue what they were talking about. And so again, it hurt my self-image because I'm like, I don't even understand what they're talking about. How am I going to build a business when I don't even understand the language that they're using and the things they're saying? And I didn't feel, because again, of my self-image, I didn't feel comfortable enough to say, I don't understand what you're talking about. Can you explain that to me? Because when you're in a group and everybody seems to understand something and you're the only one that doesn't, it's hard to admit that I don't have a clue what you're talking about. Now, today I would say that, but back then I didn't have the confidence to say that. Today I would say, wait, I don't understand. Go back. Can you explain that to me? And if they didn't want to do that at that moment because everybody else is understanding, that's fine. Explain it to me later. But, or I'd look it up, and try to figure it out myself. My point is sometimes we don't have the self-image of who we are in order to become that person. So build the image and develop into that person that you need to be. And do not allow your present circumstances to get in the way. It's the other thing we'll do. We'll say, oh, well, that's a great idea, but I don't have the money. Or that's a great idea, but I don't have the means to do this. Or that's a great idea, but I can't go there. Whatever it is, we allow ourselves to be stopped because we're looking at our present circumstances instead of concentrating on where it is we want to go. You see, if you don't look at where you want to go, you're always going to be where you are now. So you have to look at where you want to go and then act as if you've already accomplished it. That's another one that's so important. It's kind of funny that this was in my show notes for today. And today when I was doing my meditation, and I'm on this 90-day meditation journey, and the meditation today was exactly on this thing about seeing yourself where you want to be. And you seeing yourself having already achieved the goal. And the meditation I was doing today was, what are you doing? What does your day look like once you've achieved your goal? Isn't that a great idea? So it's not just about thinking about what you want to do, but okay, now that I've achieved the goal, what does my day look like? Because if you have a really big goal and your achievement is pretty high up there, chances are your day is going to change because now you're a different person. You see, whatever your goal is, maybe now you're the boss. You're in charge of a team. So maybe you have to see yourself taking charge. Maybe you see yourself walking into the office of the president. Maybe you see yourself as maybe you want to be a fitness guru. And so now you see yourself teaching others about fitness. Maybe you see yourself as being invited to different boards because of the success you've had. Now, maybe you're on this bank board, or you're on a church board, or you're on a school board or something, because you have knowledge that few people have. And so now you've been promoted to a different level. Maybe you're driving a different car. Maybe you're living in a different house. Maybe you're wearing different clothes because you've achieved something a little different. And isn't that beautiful to be able to see yourself with having the achievement? What does your day look like? What kind of clothes are you wearing? What kind of car are you driving? What kind of house are you living in? What kind of things are you doing that day? Who are you interacting with? Are you in charge? Are you having team meetings? That was one thing I do. I have a team meeting once a week, but I've seen myself, okay, at the level of achievement that I've now gotten to, I need to have team meetings every day just to make sure everybody knows where we're headed for today. And so those are things you have to start looking at. And when you see yourself there and in the position where you want to be, that's when you start to unlock this beautiful, abundant life that you want. And, write a description of what you're doing and then read it. Doesn't do you any good to write it and then not ever think about it again. So write it, read it, think about it, visualize it, think about it throughout the day. Because when you can do that, when you can be so consumed into where you are, now that you have that achievement, so much quicker you'll get there. It's when we start to doubt, or we think about it once and don't think about it again for another month, that it takes forever. So think about your goal as a great starting place. What do you think your purpose is? Is your purpose where you are today? Because if it is, that's great. You have achieved what you're supposed to do. But if it isn't, or if you think you have another purpose, see, some people think that you have one purpose in life, and that's their philosophy. I don't believe that. I think you have different purposes in life. I think my very first real purpose in life was to raise 3 wonderful children and to be a great mom. I think that was my very first purpose. I wanted to raise these children, and at the same time as also an educator. And so I thought that was a great purpose, to be able to teach other children and to be able to encourage them, because there's so much discouragement out in the world. I didn't want to be one of them. So I wanted to encourage the children that I taught and be a great mom. But then once my kids grew up and became adults, what was my purpose then? If I felt like my main purpose was for my children, what I have then, and now it's to help other people, to achieve what they do not believe they can achieve. And that's what my new purpose is. So you find that purpose, and it's not where you are, but it's who you are. Who are you? Because you can go any place you want to go. And I want you to understand it. It's like the razor's edge. You talk about the razor's. I think there's a book written about the razor's edge, but there's a little difference between people. But that little difference, which can be as small as a razor's edge, is huge in their achievement. So we have to look at that razor's edge, and then we have to realize that sometimes things don't go well and a door closes. But whenever a door closes in front of us, that's not a time to sit and have a pity party. It's a time to say, okay, that was not the answer. But over here is a window. Think of your inventors. Thomas Edison, they say it took him, I've heard 2,000, 10,000 times to invent the light bulb. Well, what if he'd have been discouraged after maybe the first 10? We might be still lighting candles. But he didn't become discouraged. He kept going, and he'd look at everything that didn't work as, I know another way, not to invent a light bulb. Another way a light bulb will not work. He just kept going. And that's what we have to do. Door closes. It's just showing us that's not the answer. And a window opens. And that happens all the time. And that's happened to my son multiple times. There were a couple times he went for different jobs and he did not get them. Well, it's because it wasn't the right one. And once he got into the right company, it made a huge difference. And now he's just like soaring right through. You see, you don't know. The first baseball team he thought he had to be on to get that scholarship, the door closed. And he found another window that opened, and that was the one that was the answer. And he had to realize that here's the solution, not that one, no matter how painful it can be. Fear is what holds most people back, because they have that door slam in their face 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, and now they're afraid to step out. And that's what happens to a lot of people in business. They start their own business, and I see this with coaches and consultants all the time. They start a business, they don't really know what they're doing. They're kind of like me, didn't know what they were doing. And so they step out, a door slams, a door slams, a door slams, a door slams, and they stop. You're never going to find success that way, because you have to keep going. So you have to keep overcoming that fear of failure and keep moving forward. You must get involved, emotionally involved in what it is that you want. And that's key. Now, I want you to check my website, Creating Top Producers. I want you to go and check on social media, because I'm doing various workshops where I'm going to help people in business to understand what you need to do, because I find that most people in business have no clue as to how to move forward. How do I know that? Because I didn't, and I've talked to hundreds of people that also did not know how to move forward in their business. So I am doing that, and here's the thing. You can't get a different result without changing something within. because a lot of it comes down to self-image. Because if you create the right self-image, then you are able to figure things out.